Okay, this is Hero Job Shibe of Musings of the Shibe podcast. I'm here with Greg with WeSellDoges, and we're going to talk about Dogecoin, his business, and the future of cryptocurrency. So, Greg, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved with Dogecoin or cryptocurrencies in general?
Sure. So I guess it started as a hobby about, I guess a little over a year ago now. I actually started out mining just as a side project. I realized that I was a little bit late to the Bitcoin game and, saw everything going on with Litecoin mining. And then I guess I was involved with Dogecoin really right at launch. I started mining it a few days later, and that was the big start for me. And then, over time, just with being active on Reddit, and I kind of got into the whole reselling business, which of course eventually evolved into what it is today.
Okay, well, let's talk about the mining. You said you were too late to the Bitcoin game. Did you want to mine Bitcoin, or did you want to participate in the mining end of cryptocurrency? Is that what fascinated you, the hardware
Well,
aspect?
yeah, I think like a lot of people, I saw it a year or two ago and kind of read the headline and glossed over it, and then of course we all read about everybody who rode it to the moon. Everybody, I think like a
Yeah.
lot of people, I kind of kicked myself and said, oh, why didn't I do that? So I saw a relatively safe opportunity with Litecoin. I thought it'd be a cool project. I did the calculations and I figured I should be able to safely ROI in 3 to 4 months or so, and I'll get to kind of have an excuse to grab all this hardware and have a fun project. And so I think that was kind of the initial appeal was a fun project. It allowed me to be involved at what could be the early growth stage of a cryptocurrency, and just kind of get my feet wet.
Okay, well, let's talk about the hardware. Were you already a technical person, or did you have to learn on the go?
So I have been. I don't consider myself super technical. Some people, I guess, would disagree, especially with the mining thing. I've always built my own computers growing up, which of course building mining rigs is basically the same. And so I guess that's kind of the framework I drew from. There was a little bit of a learning curve running the custom Linux distributions for mining, but really that stuff is simple enough. And with the community out there, there's just so many people that are readily willing to help that it helps out a lot when you're first getting started. So I did build them myself and just kind of made a project out of it.
So would you consider yourself a Linux guy, or did you have to learn Linux because of the mining programs?
I had to learn a bit because of the mining programs. I've used it some in the past, with internships, doing standard installations for training programs at companies. Some just for fun, using Ubuntu on a home computer. But of course, that's pretty, with the Ubuntu GUI, it's really not too technical. So I learned a decent bit building the mining rigs, kind of figuring it out. And then also once we started building out, the We Sell Crypto sites, David, who's the co-founder and technical and development lead, of course he's a Linux guru, and so I had to learn quite a bit of that, doing the site management verifications, things like that, from within the Linux server. So between all of that, I've learned a decent bit. I wouldn't consider myself super fluent, but I can make my way around.
Okay. Well, let's talk about you building your company, We Sell Doge. You said you got into the reselling business. Did you do this through RC chats? Did you do it on Reddit itself? Where did you start? And how did
Yeah,
you start?
sure, sure. So it was initially on Reddit on our Doge market. And basically what I realized, one, I was mining them, and at the time, it was the glory days of mining 2
Mm-hmm.
million per day, which of course was really nice. And then, um, so yeah, as an outlet to sell them, I saw that people were selling them for a markup on Reddit, and kind of unfairly at the time, that markup was much greater than it is now. And frankly, I think that my me and some of the other more fair sellers on Reddit, and then especially when we launched WeSellDoges, it really put some pressure on the marking or on the markup and leveled out at a more fair margin. So So it was initially manually selling on Reddit. I would sit there and post a thread, and after not long, I was established as trustworthy. But basically, I'd sit there, wait for a PM to come through. You know, I, on some days I'd be so busy that I'd hire a friend to come over and sit on my laptop, and he'd watch PayPal, wait to see a payment come through. I'd pay it out. He'd mark it on the spreadsheet as complete. A whole process for the payouts, and then updating the what was it called? I guess the verification thread, where you would post and say successful trade. So it was real busy, but it would basically be I'd wake up on a Saturday, I'd go out to local Bitcoins and get some Bitcoins and trade them, and it'd end up working 12, 14, 16-hour Saturdays. And I'm kind of you know let me think. I'm a bit anal about being receptive and being really quick to respond, which I think a lot of times is evidenced even in the We Sell Crypto verification emails, how quick we can be without a team. Really, it's just me sitting there. And so it was pretty stressful. I'd go to bed, but then, at 2 a.m., I'd just know that there were messages in my inbox. So that's really what drove me to explore the possibility of an automated system.
Okay, well, because I was going to talk to you. You were doing this manually, and I know there were on the Bitcoin end there was a lot of software programs that would made it easier. But did you have to develop your own verification process yourself, the software, or did you kind of rework something that already existed?
So the verification software at this point actually is not automated, and right now we're in the process. So it still is just David and I, which greatly restricts what we're able to do and
Mm-hmm.
how quickly we're able to do it. So on our roadmap right now is a couple of third-party integrations to streamline verifications to get more secure and confirmed verifications, and then some anti-fraud systems. So we're working with a couple of third-party integrations right now to try and get some things built out in that area. But as of right now, we had to go through a couple of iterations of our verification process. Some people might remember when we first launched, we tried to do people who weren't verified at all. You didn't even have to email. You could purchase up to, I think it was $50 a day.
I remember that. I did that when you
Yeah,
first started launched out. Yes.
yeah, it was real great until it wasn't. So that quickly backfired, and that's one of the worst things about our business. We've had days even with these $15 integrations. It's
Mm-hmm.
really disheartening. Having a day where I wake up and check the email, and we've had a day where there have been 115 separate reversals. And so it's no wonder that we beat out a lot of our competition. It's taken some iterations to our verification processes. We do still take some hits trying to keep it as easy as possible, because that's the whole point, right? We want it to be simple for people to enter in, but it can be tough.
It is very simple, especially since a lot of people now have PayPal due to eBay, and just a lot of websites has PayPal on it, so a lot of people have that account already.
Yeah.
But let's talk about your iterations here, because I know one of the biggest dilemmas within the cryptocurrency world is the reverse chargeback, which is why a lot of people are into cryptocurrencies, is to get away from that. But if you don't already have that and you're selling it, there's a kind of a gap, I guess you can say. I mean, what what have you done to make sure that you're not getting overloaded with these chargebacks and going out of business?
Yeah. So I think that we're fortunate in starting with the Dogecoin community, and I have to give props there. I think that had we tried this venture with the Bitcoin community, it
Mhm.
would have failed, without a doubt. But we're fortunate in that most of the people within Dogecoin are good, well, good-natured folks, who are out to do well, and I think that that's helped such that we've established enough of a legitimate user base to at least keep us above water when the fraudulent user base comes through. And like I said, I think that that's all. I don't think we could have started with any other cryptocurrency and been successful with this PayPal model.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the good nature of the Doge community. I mean, when you first started out and you had the unverified transactions, and then you went to the verified transactions, I know there was a bit of a dust up, but how you guys handled it very well. Could you just kind of express to the audience about that period?
Yeah, so we still get it from time to time. People who just aren't quite as familiar, why do I need to verify things like
Mm-hmm.
that? It's an unfortunate necessity, and I always say we're trying to keep it as simple as possible. But the unfortunate thing is, every time we get a reversal through, we have to tighten up those restrictions. And frankly, even recently, I've been considering we may need to drop that $15 limit down just because, we can really get burned when someone accumulates purchases every day for a month and
Mm-hmm.
then versus 30 days worth of $15 purchases, which of course isn't necessarily super easy to do. We have checks in place, PayPal look to make sure that it's a legitimate claim, and I have to be kind of broad when I talk about the various methods. I don't want to go out and give people
I know.
ideas, so I try and
I
keep it.
understand that.
Yeah, so I try and keep it general, but there has been a little bit of pushback, and we try to do everything we can. Unfortunately, with this third-party integration, we may find that verifications are even a little bit more official, so to say. It's
Mm-hmm.
which is an unfortunate necessity. I'm hoping that once we do go this third-party route, though, we may be able to offer higher limits or even a discount. If we do find that this third-party ID verification service can help ensure that we're dealing with legitimate buyers and our chargeback rate does go down, I'm hoping, one thought is to perhaps say, listen, I know this is a little more invasive, but we can offer, say, a 1% bonus to all of your purchasing if you opt for this ID verification. So, we'll try and offset, you can still have your ease of entry, you'll pay a little bit of a higher premium and try and both justify and incentivize that additional verification while, of course, keeping it simple as well.
Okay, well, let me talk about some of your customer base here because We Sell Doge seems to be one of the more easier transaction or a stepping stone for people to get involved with Dogecoin. I mean, are the numbers available to you where you can see like where in the world people are purchasing Dogecoin?
Yep, so we have done business in over 90 countries right now. The vast majority of our business is still out of the US. It's
Mm-hmm.
over, I think over 90%. And I should have pulled all these metrics before I came. I haven't pulled them in a little while. But by far, US does the highest volume, both in terms of number of customers and dollars. Behind that, it's the big countries. Dogecoin's real big in Australia, so that's up there as well. So we do take a look at those metrics from time to time, but yep, by far U.S. is the largest at this point.
Okay, well, let's speak about the U.S. FinCEN has come out with some regulations. New York is putting together bit licenses and stuff like that. And I know your LAC in North Carolina, and they have a different type of money transmitting laws, a much easier one than some states.
Yeah.
Is this a concern for you as you possibly upscale your business, or?
Yeah, so it started as a hobby, and we weren't too worried about it. Once we hit the and our dollar volume, frankly, is still relatively low in FinCEN's mind.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did realize once this started to gain some traction, we had to take care of that. So we are now a federally registered money services business. We are FinCEN compliant, and we do have an AML, which is an anti-money laundering program in place, and a KYC Know Your Customer program.
Mm-hmm.
So we are an official regulated MSB at this point. So we did take care of that, and we do have an attorney on the compliance side and one on the business side, and of course a tax accountant. And so that was really the last few months, was getting all of our ducks in a row, getting everything officialized, and really making sure that we're doing everything we needed to do to be official and compliant and legal.
Okay. And was this, considering you said your volume's a bit low and you're a small company, was this a bit of a burden, or do you feel it was a necessary step for you guys to grow?
I think it was both. I think it was a burden and a necessary step. One of the unfortunate sides is that at this point we haven't taken on any funding.
Uh-huh.
And we haven't. Both David and I actually have full-time jobs. I think that We Sell Crypto is the second full-time job, frankly. But yeah, so every expense is a burden, even the incorporation, paying an incorporation fee. Every expense we hit is definitely a burden, more so than a company who had taken on a certain amount in funding. But I think it was necessary at the same time, and I think that good news is it kind of earns us some legitimacy as well. We're no longer a fly-by-night, under the radar operation. We are a
No.
fully compliant business, and now we can grow without worry of if everything's going to come crashing down if somebody raises questions. Which, in fact, it has. Our Bitcoin supplier did. Send a request that says, we've noticed your volume, everything like that. And fortunately, we were able to say, yes, we are a, registered money services business, because, if we don't have all those ducks in a row, it only takes one question from PayPal or from this or that. And we're so dependent, right now, if PayPal were to shut us down, we'd be out of luck. So we've been really proactive in making sure that we're fully compliant within everybody's terms and conditions, and making sure that we're doing everything right. I think that that's kind of the most important thing we focus on is, do everything right, be fair by our customers, be legal, be compliant, and just kind of take it slow. We haven't grown as quickly as some others because we haven't taken on funding, but I think, doing things right is the most important aspect of our business.
Okay, well, I have three questions based on this we've spoken about. There were a lot of fly-by-night Dogecoin companies that were doing the same thing you were doing, but in a different manner. But there were also some legitimate Dogecoin companies that have since gone to the wayside. How do you feel that you've been able to survive the transition and the volatility in a cryptocurrency world?
That's a good question. I think that, first off, it comes to our pricing. Like I mentioned, we put a lot of pricing pressure on some other sellers, both on Reddit and on some of these, some of these other resellers. And frankly, we all, as far as I can remember, with the exception of some of the sites that did the actual bank integrations and the extensive integrations similar to what the official Bitcoin exchanges do, they were able to price, pretty low. But as far as other PayPal resellers, things like that, we've always had the lowest price. And so that's one important aspect. I think another big one is that we were the first to do it. I was, it was, what was it, March, when PayPal changed their terms and conditions. When we first started, we got some pushback of people saying, and that was kind of a point of frustration. There was, and I tried to stay out of it, but there were some big threads in our Dogecoin of people saying, to the people buying from WeSellDoges and others, thinking that you're within PayPal's terms and conditions, you're really not. When in fact they were. So in March, PayPal actually started allowing the resale of cryptocurrencies, and that happened at the same time that eBay launched the official virtual currencies section of eBay. And as soon as that happened, I called PayPal and I recorded it, and I said, so I want the go ahead. I'm telling you what I'm doing, this and that. And I recorded that conversation. And as soon as that happened, I said, okay, we've got the green light, and we were the first to do it. So I think that helps as well. And then I think just being a good, reliable company, we've done good by all of our customers. We haven't, we've been open and transparent about everything. I think that just all of the above has caused, us being adopted very, very well in the community.
Okay, well, let's get into the PayPal thing, because I wanted to talk about how PayPal accepting Bitcoin and they also eBay having that virtual currency exchange. Has the nature of the relationship with PayPal changed because of their acceptance? Are they more understanding of your nature of your business? You're not receiving as many questions as you think, or are they more target focused?
Let me think. So we are now compliant, so we don't have to try and hide the fact that we are selling virtual currencies. That's out there in the open. So I guess that's the good side, is that I no longer have to fear question by PayPal. I mean, I'm on the phone with them on a near daily basis, and now we actually even have a designated account rep. So I deal with one person over there at PayPal now. So I think that that's the good side of it, is that you no longer have to hide what you're doing, or or anything like that. They get their fees, and we pay them, and we're on good terms. I think the unfortunate side is, due to the nature of cryptocurrencies, there's not much PayPal can. I mean, they could do more in certain areas of offering better out-of-box protection tools for digital goods merchants.
Mm-hmm.
But, unfortunately, since you can't really tell where you're sending cryptocurrencies, it's tough for PayPal to do much more to protect us as sellers. It's really on us as a business to decide whether we trust who we're dealing with and evaluate the risk of chargebacks or fraudulent transactions, because even though I can tell PayPal I sent it to this address, there's no way for PayPal to tell that this Dogecoin address is owned by the same person that owns this PayPal account. So, I think it's still a rough area in terms of protecting crypto merchants. And, of course, that's what we hear about all the time. That's why, chargebacks and reversals are always the hot topic in resale.
Well, I've seen this talked about, and I don't know if it's ever going to happen, where when people register with either exchange or reseller, where they have a designated address that all cryptocurrencies go to, and you can't send it to a different address. I mean, do you see that as a verification process, or do you think that's just not going to happen with the nature of cryptocurrencies?
I think that I think it would be a good idea, and this is one area where some people view the selling point of cryptos as the anonymity.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I see a great opportunity for is taking away that anonymity, because being able to be held responsible or tied to a crypto address will help in a lot of these cases and will make ease of entry much easier. If we could, if I could have proof that this address belongs to John Smith, and if I send to this address, it's provably sent to him as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
It make it much easier for people to resell cryptos and be able to back up where they sent that transaction. I think, though, that it would take a very official business
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of growth to be able to use that as evidence to protect against PayPal disputes or chargebacks. I think that unless it were a really official company, or if, say, LexisNexis or somebody came in and did,
Mm-hmm.
crypto address ID verification services, something like that. One of the big players in the, know your customer ID verification space were to come in and take that endeavor. I think that that's what it would take in order to count on that as a credible source. I don't think, just a company could launch right now and have a database where I could go in and say, this is my address. Because it's really tough to know who you're dealing with, especially online where anybody can be anyone. If I hack a scan of somebody's ID, or if I steal somebody's wallet, even that makes it tough. Even when we receive scans of somebody's ID, there's still question out there of whether that's a faked ID, a stolen ID. So it's a tough space. I think that could be a good opportunity, but I think it requires some big players to work out.
Okay. And where do you see, because I see on your website that you have red coin and dark coin, and then you have the second job that you're doing, which is WeSellCrypto. Why did you get those into those other cryptocurrencies, and what is WeSellCrypto going to be?
Sure. So WeSellCrypto is kind of the overarching website.
Okay.
So what we quickly realized is that when we're expanding to different coins, it's not sustainable to keep maintaining standalone websites.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to change our verification process right now, we have to do that on 4 different websites. So just the scalability of maintaining those individual sites wasn't sustainable. So what we're moving towards right now is we want to build out WeSellCrypto, which will be a centralized site to purchase any of the coins we want to offer. And what that'll enable us to do is to quickly add new coins. With the, what's basically at the click of a button, we could add, a new coin on WeSellCrypto, and we wouldn't have to do the whole rebranding, the website layout, and the management of another website, both from a computing standpoint, a content management standpoint. Just in every way that wouldn't be sustainable. So that's what we're working towards with WeSellCrypto right now. We will still keep, for example, the WeSellDoges standalone site. That's not going anywhere. That's kind of our bread and butter. But going forward, as we add new coins, the idea is that we can build out WeSellCrypto, get a really professional look and feel there, and start to have that single place where you can come and select from a whole table of coins, and really open up accessibility into lots of different altcoins.
All right. Well, let's talk about accessibility. I recently saw through our Millionaire Makers, and for those who don't know what our Millionaire Makers is, it came out of just like everything on Reddit. Someone posted an idea where there's so many Redditors on Reddit itself. If a million of them gave $1 to a single Redditor, they can make somebody a millionaire. And thus this subreddit was born, and there's been 3 individuals been picked, and basically what it is you get picked, and Redditors just get donated dollar through either PayPal, Dogecoin, or Bitcoin you just support the fund to give the money to this Redditor. And they've been having some issues with PayPal, and I think they're trying to fix it for the 4th time around. But I noticed that you were posted on, and people talked about it as a place to go to get into Dogecoin. Has that driven traffic to you, or is that still ongoing? Or
yeah, it's tough to say, who exactly came from Millionaire Makers. We have had, and what I should do is pull by that crypto address to see how many orders has gone to that address. I think that has gotten some people to our site, but people don't necessarily mention Millionaire Makers in the verification email, which makes it tough to determine whether they came from there or not. I did do an announcement thread on there, a message to Millionaire Makers, which has been pretty well received. I think it's still at the top of that subreddit about a day later. And so we are getting some visibility there, which I think is great, because I think it's a good opportunity for them as well. I think that this is the perfect use case for how to use Dogecoin for microtransactions. So we have gotten some traction. It's tough to say exactly how much, but yeah, it has been good.
Okay, let's talk about integration. Do you see WeSellDoge as maybe hooking up with a business site or any site where if they click on a link, it goes directly to you and they can get their Dogecoin to make purchases through that site?
Yeah, so we've had a couple of opportunities for that. We had one person, and I can't remember what his Twitter handle was, but he wanted to basically be able to send people to our site and pre-populate some of the forms. So maybe it was pre-populating his address. I don't remember what it was. That was a pretty simple integration, and we were able to basically build out an API in order for him to do that. I don't think that's been very widely used, frankly. The other area, which kind of fizzled out, is if you remember the Void Space project. We had partnered with that team.
Yes, I was very fascinated by that, and I see their Facebook and stuff like that, but I have not seen any major updates. Like what I'm wondering what happened there.
Yeah, and we're kind of in the same boat. They are still, I think they are still working on it, but like I said, it has fizzled to a certain extent. What we're basically trying to build out with them is that since people paid for a void space account and could be held accountable for their actions, what we were doing with them is we were building out a system to enable non-verified in-app purchasing or in-game purchasing. So from within void space, they could offer purchase more Dogecoin powered by WeSellDoge, and they basically directly from within the site integrate with our site. We'd allow them to purchase without the email verification up to however much, $10 a day or something. So that was another integration that we were working on. I think now we've got the framework for enabling that, but like I said, it's kind of fizzled out. I haven't heard a ton more about that project. And like I said, just our backlog is so long right now trying to put in some of these anti-fraud systems that it can be tough to prioritize some of the non-business critical developments like that. So it's on the roadmap, but we're just so limited as to what we can build and how much we can do.
Okay. Well, let's speak about your roadmap. We know that WeSellCrypto is going to be coming out soon. Do you see yourself eventually going to like a funding phase where people can be an investor into your company? Is that ideal, or do you still want to be kind of independent?
It's tempting. We've kind of been on that line, whether we're comfortable enough with it to jump in. It'd be tough to take on funding without both of us jumping in and doing this full time. I think that we both like the safety of having quote unquote real jobs. We've all got bills to pay, and and with the crypto roller coaster, with the sitting on all of our holdings in Bitcoin. I mean, even in the last couple of days, I mean, having to go from 200 to 320 back down to, what is it, 225 today.
Yeah.
It's tough having your well-being or your bills riding on those kinds of 30% fluctuations. So it's tough to say. We've considered some different models, and frankly, we could use some more capital at this point, both so that we could have more inventory to sell. Right now, we're limited as to how quickly we can grow because we can't sell more than we have in inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And due to the delays in getting Bitcoin, once we receive PayPal, to get that back to resellable Dogecoin, it's essentially a 5-day process, which means if we're selling $10,000 worth per day, we need to have $50,000 at least invested in order to not run out of inventory. So that kind of throttles our growth rate. That's why we can't come out tomorrow and launch Litecoin or some of the other high market cap players, is because we don't have enough in inventory to double revenue at this point. So it is tempting to think about funding models. As I said, one thing we've really been doing though is taking it slow and doing things right. Of course we all saw the big moolah pie share disaster.
Yes.
One of the great things about our business right now is that you don't have to trust us. We don't hold your funds. We don't hold your personal information. You send us PayPal and you get your coins in 10, 15 seconds. It's kind of we can do no wrong at this point. We don't have investor shares to crash to nothing or anything like that. And so it would be a different move to move into that kind of space. We're considering all the different dynamics of it, and we don't want to give up too much equity this early in our growth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough to say at this point. Like everything, there's a lot of variables, a lot of moving parts. I will say in the next 6 months or so, I don't think we'll be seeking funding in the next 6 months or so. I think we're still gonna see how much we can grow it organically, see how big we can grow with the two of us, and kind of put that off for the time being.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. What do you think is needed in the cryptocurrency space to make it more accessible? Do you think there should be more sites similar to yourself, or there needs to be more ease of instructions to people?
Well, I think that our site's done a good job basically making it as easy as possible. Of course, the unfortunate but necessary side to our site is that there is the markup.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, with today's framework, whether it be the bank delays in the banking system, the reversible nature of fiat via different forms of integration, there's simply you can't have both. You can either have ease of entry, quick receipt of coins with a markup, or you can have very low margins but more cumbersome entry, which is extensive verification, bank integrations, and then delayed receipt of coins. So I think with that being said, I think that our service has made it about as easy as possible. One thing we could do different is accept some different payment processors, which has been put on the back burner just due to everything else that we've got going on. But it is on our radar. We'd like to accept, for non-U.S. transactions, say OKPay or Perfect Money.
Mm-hmm.
And what those may allow us to do, my understanding is that they don't allow chargebacks. It's essentially all transactions are final, which is why they can't operate in the United States. It's because of U.S. credit card law.
Mm-hmm.
But in the future, that may also, create, easier entrance if we can accept that and say, okay, now instead of, now you can pay 5% less if there's no risk of chargebacks to us. So I think more payment processors is one area for improvement, but other than that, yeah, it just kind of comes down to whether you want the ease of entrance or the kind of cumbersome low margin approach.
Would one of those payment processors be like Google Wallet or an Apple Pay or any of those type
Now,
of?
yep. Now, sale of virtual currencies, as far as I know, and I'm pretty confident because I haven't heard otherwise, is still against Google Wallet's terms and conditions.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, and if it's against Google's, you can bet it's against Apple Pay. So that's I can pretty much say that. So we are constantly considering various different payment processors. What I will say though is that a lot of people, you know, just because Google, everybody loves Google, including myself.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I'll say that in my experience, Google Wallet hasn't been any more open or friendly than PayPal.
No, I have issues with Google Wallet. I don't think it is an easy thing to use compared
Yeah,
to PayPal. I
yeah,
have difficulties with it, and I just gave up on it and removed all my information because there's just no point.
yeah. And so what I'll say is that, especially in the days when I was doing this manually,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to speak to nearly every payment processor out there. I have listed Dogecoins on Amazon. I've taken Amazon payments. I've created a Square marketplace. I have
Mm-hmm.
done Google Wallet. I mean, just to name a few. I've tried Perfect Money. Uh, what was the other? Yeah. Anyway, it's just so many of these payment processors. It's unreal, and I've been shut down or burned on the majority of them. So I can definitely say that I've evaluated the various payment processors, and we're always open to adding more. But what I will say, especially with PayPal's change in terms and conditions, they really are the only option at this point, at least for the United States, in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this. How do you think, Dogecoin or the cryptocurrencies in general are going to change, payment processors or just change how people interact? I mean, do you see things now that you didn't think you were going to see a year ago?
Um, I mean, I think that there have been some good advancements. I think that merchants accepting them is great. I think that one thing that's needed and is coming along is liquidity of cryptocurrencies, especially in third world countries. I think that, to be honest, I think that one of the strongest parts of cryptos is international money transfer,
Mm-hmm.
and and again, I don't think that its selling point is being able to do that anonymously. Of course, that's the big government spreading fear and uncertainty and doubt is oh, you can send $1 billion to ISIS and have it go untracked. I don't think that
Yes.
that's the selling point, but I think that for the people who are here in the States and say in the tech industry and who work hard and send money back home to India, I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's the strong part, to be able to do that via Bitcoin and have it get there instantly, and then also have the proper infrastructure in place in India or Africa or wherever it might be to get that back into fiat. I think that that's one area that's a huge opportunity, which is just one of the kind of surface opportunities of Bitcoin. That's one of the more simple use cases that exists with today's infrastructure. I think that some of the other models and the alternate uses for the blockchain are huge as well. But I couldn't speak to what that's going to look like at this point.
Okay. Well, let's just spitball here. I'm sure you're aware of the Silk Road case and stuff like that. Do you have any fear of your service being used as a money laundering thing? Or do you think you're such a low volume or Dogecoin is such a low volume that that's not going to be an issue?
Um, Let me think. So it is a fear. So we do need to keep checks in place to
Mm-hmm.
monitor against money laundering, which is
Because
why.
I do know that there is a site that's out there that does accept Dogecoin for those type of transactions.
Well, at the end of the day, whether you're getting your
Mm-hmm.
cryptos from Coinbase or whether you bought them from the Fed themselves, and that
Yeah.
when they resold those Silk Road Bitcoins, you can change them into whatever crypto you want and send them wherever you want. The same way that you can do it with cash.
Mm-hmm.
If you hold cash, you can go out to the street corner and buy some drugs with it or something. Um, So, I think that all that we can do is make sure that we know our customers, and you know, we have checks in place as part of our anti-money laundering program to, we have certain flags in place to, try and capture some of the, if there's suspicious activities, and
Mm-hmm.
there's there are all kinds of guidelines. That's the same process that, the big players, that the Coinbase has to follow. We've got the same programs in place at maybe ours is more manual, but essentially we look for the same things as whether it be banks or the big crypto players. So we're compliant. We have the programs in place, but at the end of the day, someone could purchase bitcoins from Coinbase or anywhere and send them wherever they want. So it's kind of out of our hands. Of course, if somebody says I need these for Silk Road purchases, or if someone's in the U.S. and they say I want this for gambling, we do have the obligation, to take action against that.
Is gambling on the list of transactions that are not supposed to occur with cryptocurrencies? Because I see all sorts of gambling sites and
Yeah, so that's a sensitive area, and
yeah.
basically we operate globally.
Mm-hmm.
So our policy is essentially that you need to make sure that you are within the within your rights, and you're operating by the law of your particular territory.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about all we can say. If somebody's in an area where that's perfectly legal, of course they can do it. But so that's kind of our disclaimer, is that you're not using cryptos purchased from our site for any kind of illegal or illicit activity. Um, and of course, just like getting cryptos anywhere else, it is a possibility, but we have our checks in place to try and prevent that from happening.
Okay. Well, before we wrap this up, I wanted to talk to you about. You said that you built your own computers. When did you start that?
So very yeah. When I was very young, I can't even remember when I built my first one. So my dad was always into it. It'd kind of be projects, whether he was building his own or helping us build our own. So I mean, I don't even know how old I might have been, maybe 8 years old. Definitely pretty young.
Wow. Well, did you take anything apart before you were 8 years old, like the TV or VCR, or were you in a home where you already had like stuff you can mess with?
Yeah, I mean, anytime an electronic breaks, it's always fun to take it apart. Just
Yeah.
not even that I was being particularly productive with it, just find all the screws and unscrew them.
Hmm.
I can't even say that I was learning much, or I wasn't doing some genius thing of taking it apart and putting it back together. But yeah, I always liked exploring, and still, if you brought me a broken laptop, I'd take it apart for the heck of it.
Okay. So would you say that you find yourself to be more of a hardware guy than a software guy, or do you think you're pretty good at both now?
Let me think. That's tough to say, and I think that anybody who's built a computer realizes how simple it is. It's almost like putting a puzzle together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess I would say I'm not. I couldn't say that I lean one way or another. Just because yeah, I can do them both. Obviously, once you build a computer, it's kind of built, and I'll still tinker or do this and that. But of course, once it's built, then it's all software. I'm not like playing around in Photoshop or Creative Suite or whatever else. But I guess I'm just kind of a jack of all trades. I'm not a master at much of anything, but I like getting my feet wet with you know with with everything of interest.
And do you think a jack of all trades is what is needed to build a business in the cryptocurrency space? Or do you think you could have had a better skill in one set or another?
So I think that as, as far as building the business, I think that I've got a decent business mind,
Mm-hmm.
which is the reason that I brought on David. I do sometimes wish that I had more technical know-how to help with some of the actual development,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that my expertise is, one, in the business sense, two, in the kind of not PR, but customer outreach and things like that. I think that I'm decent at being, reasonable and transparent. and everything like that. And I also have somewhat of a financial sense in that I was able to architect our automation system and hand it off in a way. So I've got some programming background, enough that I don't remember the syntax. I can hand over a workflow to say, this needs to queue this at this time, and this needs to happen. And I can read through code and make sure that logically it makes sense with what I'm trying to achieve. And so I think that in that sense, I've got, what it takes to, I've got enough technical and development know-how to look at it at a high level, even if I can't build it myself. And then I've got the business, financial, customer relations know-how to kind of connect the dots and make it an end-to-end offering.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, and this will be my final question for you.
Sure.
As someone who's in the cryptocurrency space, and this is something I observe quite often, and I know I'm not the only person who observes this, but there seems to be a lack of customer support within the cryptocurrency space. It seems to be such a back burner, and I don't know if it's because there's such a techie person that are running this, and they don't realize how important for a business you have to have that customer relationship. I mean, why do you think that is such a void in there? Everything from like the about section on websites to emailing people. I mean, just like little basic one-on-one stuff seems to be missing.
Yeah, it's tough to say, Yeah, it's tough to say. I think some of the bigger companies do a better job at it. In our company, I'll admit, our About Us section is outdated. And that's just because, like I said to you, David's got the back-end technical know-how.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the, customer relations know-how, but just both of us are far too busy to get in and update our content or focus on a great web design or front-end development.
Well, but I can reach you. I mean, I've not really seen anything that says that you're unreachable.
Yeah.
And that happens often in the cryptocurrency space where you cannot reach the person running the service you're trying to use.
Yeah, and I think that is because in the crypto space, anybody can start their own company or anybody feels like they can. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it varies from company to company. I would ask the same questions at times. Why aren't they more transparent? Why aren't they giving an hourly update in some of these, in some of these hot areas?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't really speak to why that is. I think that it's perhaps a combination of a few things. I think one, that people can just be overwhelmed, or it's not in their natural capabilities to be outward customer facing. Maybe just depending on their background, they're not used to handling PR issues.
Mm-hmm.
Another is, it may be in some cases, somebody who's kind of bit off more than they can chew starting a cryptocurrency business. I think that we've seen that some of the ones that have failed just, it's so easy, and there's so much opportunity to start businesses that perhaps some people just aren't ready for it. So I think it varies from case to case. I can't really speak on other companies' behalfs, but on our own, like I mentioned, I just do as much as I can to be accessible. I'm always looking at the email, I'm always browsing Reddit and everything like that, and doing everything I can. But I will say that there's a lot of work to be done, and I can sympathize how some people could get behind on that and struggle to do everything that they could to keep up good public relations.
Okay, well, I appreciate your insight because that's always been a bit of a concern, and sometimes it's a red flag, and sometimes it just makes me go, huh. It's just an email, guys. Just an email. I just want an email back.
Yeah, and some people are, sometimes it can be demanding as well. I think
Mm-hmm.
that because I'm so responsive, sometimes I get email where, a casual question, and I answer it because, okay, I'm on there, and then it comes back with another casual question, and sometimes I do just kind of have to, strike that balance because I've got, 55 other emails that I need to get through. But yeah, some companies have room for improvement. I think it'll only, I think that as companies get weeded out and, some of the better ones rise to the top, I'm sure we'll see it continue to improve.
Okay, well, Greg, is there any last word you want to give to the listeners about your company, about your plans, or anything of that nature?
I don't think so. We've appreciated the strong support we've gotten from the community. It's always great to, get some exposure via programs like this or have people give their recommendations. So no, I mean, just a big thanks for all the legitimate support that we've gotten, and we're excited to be a part of, especially the Dogecoin community, and we're enjoying ourselves, and yeah, we're always listening, always open. So yep, thanks for everything, and thanks to you for having me on.
Well, thank you for coming on, Greg. So this is Greg from WeSellDoges. You can go onto the site. There will be a link in the show notes about it, but it's a great site for you to purchase Dogecoin at ease through PayPal. Thank you again so much for coming on.
Yep, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. All right, we're gonna hang up here. Bye.
All right, take care.